man that we have here. All right, so I guess we're live, we're live, we're live.
Hey,
We're
bud.
live. All right, so we're gonna be tuning in with Dr. Friday. All smiles. Let me see if everything is good today. Good, good. It's afternoon. Good afternoon, Dr. Friday. How are
Good
you?
afternoon, bud, and good afternoon to everyone who is viewing the live stream or listening on the radio here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and those who are listening abroad in our diaspora. And you could be doing other things, but you've chosen to be here, and I'm so grateful for that. And I trust that we'll have a fruitful discussion here this afternoon. But I've been listening to the program in and out, because usually on Mondays it's a busy time visiting people and trying to help people with their personal issues, as everybody in this country is somehow seems to be catching hell, depending on, of course, if you are connected high up with the ULP, you seem to be insulated from the kind of hardships that most of the people in the country are feeling. But I have been following, and you're quite right, some of the stuff that you see going on here in this St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you wonder if there's a government in place that really takes the interests of the people seriously. I just want to, however, before we get into it, to talk a bit about the weekend that I had, because this is continuous hard work to try and reach the people of this country, to try and represent what the NDP is about, to get people to understand our message, and also the hope that we bring to the political discussion and opportunities that we bring for the people of this country to change their circumstances, to do better than we are doing now. We saw from the government's budget that they presented in the parliament, starting on the 8th of January, what a fiasco that was, because the government didn't seem to think that it was important, necessary, their obligation, their duty to present the budget in full from the various ministers to the people of this country. But before we get into that, Bert, as I said, I want to just recount some of the things that I did in the weekend. And Friday last, we had a wonderful visit to Union Island. And I want to thank the people whom we met there in the streets, and people who we met in shops and various other locations, for the hospitality that they showed to us. It's always a great feeling when you go to a community and you embrace as though you are, a friend. And that is what I consider myself when I go, of course, to the Southern Grenadines. But I want to thank the people who came and chatted with us, for the hospitality that they showed. I want to thank our tour guide, if you like. We went to the Forest Reserve with Roseman Adams and his team, and looking at the area there that is reserved for a dry forest, and for, of course, our special guest there, the not guest, but the resident there, I should say, the Union Island gecko, which, as you know, is unique and has a very, very strong audience from all over the world, who want to come and see, want to help to protect it, want to make sure that it survives. And they're doing a fantastic job of protecting that habitat and having the population of this beautiful little creature survive and grow. And so we had an opportunity to go, myself, and we had, of course, the Honorable Terence Olivier, the representative for Southern Grenadines, who invited me to come down, and along with Roseman Adams and his team at the reserve for a tour. And Public Relations Officer Laverne King, of course, was with us to record some of what we encountered and the people that we spoke with and so forth. And Chieftain Neptune, was there as well. And I think he had a wonderful time. I don't know if he's ever been to Union before, but certainly he seemed to enjoy himself. And I want to thank him for coming along and for being part of our tour. And it is extremely important, of course, for us to understand our environment, to know that we live on this planet, but not alone, that we have to do all that we can to ensure that other species survive and that they are protected and that they are given the support from us here, that they will be here for future generations to admire. They have a right, of course, in their own to survive and to thrive, but it's also part of us maintaining and protecting our biodiversity here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I want to commend the team, the persons who are there doing this job on a daily basis to ensure that we have this facility, the reserve, the forest reserve, and the animals that are there. When we were there, but we saw there were some people who had a hard time seeing them. I don't know why, but we saw iguanas high up in the trees, and tour guide was basically explaining some of the uniqueness of the forest reserve, and it was so wonderful to see young people who are so well versed in what is necessary to protect this delicate area, and also that they to enjoy the work of presenting it to us who are there, and of course to all the visitors who go and see it. And we need to do more of this throughout the country to understand, that we are all part of, this life, this planet, and that we have to find ways in which to live and enjoy life, but at the same time to protect and ensure that other species are able to do so. So it's a very good thing for us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and for the team in Union Island to be doing this as a really progressive and forward-looking endeavor. And I was so happy to be a part of it. And I am much better informed, of course, than I was before. Because what the thing that I like to do, I don't just sit and read things from books or somebody repeating something to me over the phone I like to go and see for myself. And so this is what we did last Friday. And I'm much better informed about it. And I'm happy that I was able to do so. And I want to thank all the members of my team who were there with me, and for our hosts, Mr. Adams and his team there in Union Island. So, and of course, I had a call from my colleague over the weekend. Terrence was telling me, he said, Doc, boy, when people see you pass through Union, they say, this is too short. A woman tell me, she said, Friday, what kind of thing you doing here? You coming for 3 hours, she said, nah, you can't be serious. I said, well, this is just a taste, but I'm glad that you want me to be back. And I will be back. And this time, we don't start planning. We'll be there for a whole weekend. We'll make sure that we see as many people as possible. So wonderful. I'm just so happy to be a part of that experience that we had on Friday, but also looking forward to doing lots more of it. And so thanks everyone for the great hospitality there. But I don't know if there's anything you want to ask me about that, but certainly I'm still smiling because it was such a good experience, such a wonderful trip.
I saw some highlights from it, and I realized the only comparison I can make is to football. People like Ronaldo and Messi, they're working, but they enjoy the work. And I was looking at a video with you, and I realized you're working, but enjoying the work, meeting the people. So,
that is what politics is about. That is my approach, as you know. This is not faking it. This is not doing something that doesn't come natural. It comes natural to me. I like meeting people. I like going out into the community and letting people know that I'm there to listen, not just to talk. And that if I want to represent people, I feel it's my duty to go and find out from them what they want me to represent them about. And I take that very seriously. And I say that to my colleagues all the time. Don't assume that you know what people want you to represent them about. The best thing to do is to go and ask them. Ask for their support, but also say, I'm here to listen. Tell me what are the things that are most concerned to you, and what can I do? What can we do together to make things better? That is a partnership that we build with the people. That is true democracy. That is people-centered politics. That is getting down to the grassroots and talking to people, finding out what it is that they have on their minds, what we can do together, what they bring to the table in terms of resources, their skills, their experience, their resources, their capital, so that we can work together to make this place better for us. We are a poor country, but we don't have to remain in poverty and without poor think that we have no possibilities. And that is something that I take very, very seriously. My colleagues do. And, so when you see me out in the community and laughing and joking with people and mixing so readily, people try to portray me. They want this, Friday's aloof or whatever. It's nonsense. Sometimes I respect people's space, of course, because you can't, because you're a politician, you feel you push yourself in everybody's conversation, like, you as boss. No, I mean, but when people reach out to me, always, they get a positive response, because that's just who I am by nature. But more so, when I have the opportunity to reach out as well, I will do so. And this was in Union Island. It's easy because I know the place very well. A lot of the people know me well, and so when I go there, it's like meeting friends and reconnecting. And sometimes we don't do it as often as we should, but it's an ongoing process. And I gave the promise to my colleague, the member for Southern Grenadines, and to those persons who in Union tell me you gotta come back for longer. I said, yes, we will be there soon, and for a longer period of time. But we're going to be doing these public meetings and so forth in the various communities, and of course we have that as well. Somebody was suggesting to me that we come and do a town hall meeting down there, and of course once you do that there, the people in Myra are going to tell Terrence, how come Friday go on Union and he come Myra and so on. So we got to go there, and then Canada similarly, and so we'll do the whole tour, which is what we tend to do when we go to the Southern Grenadines. So
yes, definitely. And I think that sometimes, even though people believe in it, sometimes seeing you give them hope for extended time that, Dr. Friday not just speaking, he's visiting us, and even people get that lift that, and more focus on that sooner than later, that there will be a time when St. Vincent would definitely be land of hiring.
Well, that is certainly the hope, and that is the intention, because we've had outreaches, in the large rallies that we've had, are hope rallies. They're intended to say to people, don't feel discouraged, don't give up, don't be despondent. We have a brighter future in this country. But it will only happen once we bring political change, and that I am prepared to lead that change, but I can't do it by myself. We need to have the people behind us. And what we feel more and more, wherever we go, is that the people are behind us. Of course, in the last election, we got the majority. Support from the electorate. More people voted for us than the ULP. So we know that we are a popular political party. But we have grown even more since, because people understand better what our policies are, and they see that it brings hope to the country. Even the government seems to be understanding better what our policies are. Note for the fact that in the last budget address that they announced that they would adopt our proposal to reduce the interest rates on student loans to 4.5% rather than the 6 and 7 and 8% that they've been paying. And they took them 3 years, of course, to catch on to the wisdom of that policy. And having denounced it as being unsustainable or opportunism on the part of the NDP, they have embraced it. So I wonder what is opportunism, because suddenly they realize that the young people are saying no Friday, and the NDP, they have our interests at heart. They are looking out for things that make life easier for us, give us an opportunity to develop. When you hear me talk about, reducing the student the interest rates on student loan. If they had done that 3 years ago when we proposed it, 4 years ago, it would have been, they would have saved so much money by then. People would have saved a lot of money during that time. But we also talk about, for the students, of paying for secondary school subjects that they write at CSEC. It only makes sense if you're going to secondary school, that when you reach the conclusion of your program and you have to then go and write your subjects, whether it's 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever the number is, once your teachers say, well, this person is capable of writing these subjects and so forth, and you now have to pay for them. And so it just makes sense that the state, the government, will simply say, let's complete the process. Your education, your secondary education, you reach to this point, the culmination of it is writing your subjects. So why people have to go around with a sponsor sheet sometime to get money to send to the child to write 8 or 9 subjects when they are capable of doing so. So that is something that we've been saying since the time when Anam Eustace, the Honorable Anam Eustace, was the leader of our great party, because it helps young people. Don't forget, it is the NDP and the NDP government that we introduced the book loan scheme, the book loan program that allows parents to afford to get the textbooks for the children. Under this present government, that program has slid backwards. So a lot of the books, people still have to go and buy them for themselves, and it creates hardship. The fees, administrative fees at the secondary schools as you go in Form 1 are creeping up and up and up. And you wonder what's the difference between that and paying tuition. It's something that creates a hardship for parents sending the children to school. They want to be worrying more about getting enough money to put them in the vans, to buy shoes and to get their uniforms and so forth, not having to pay these exorbitant administrative fees that are being put on by the various schools, and then at the end of it to pay their subjects. So these are 3 things that we said we will do for the young people of this country. And the government, they realize that. And so now they're trying to say, all right, rather than, try to vilify it or to say, okay, it doesn't make sense. If the people think it makes sense, and they're gravitating towards the New Democratic Party on the basis that, then what they do is they adopt them, they co-opt them, they try to say, well, this is what we are going to do as well. So, but the people are not foolish. They know that, if your heart not in it and you're just faking it, then when they are there, they'll simply ignore it as they're doing now, as you quite rightly said. The country seems to be on autopilot. But we are in tourist season now, for example. And I mean, come on. The government, they want to be able to say that they're doing something for tourism. Some of the most basic things that need to be done. Yes, we have increasing numbers of yachts. I've seen them myself in my own community in Beckwith. But at the same time, we have increasing crime against yachties. So the government has to send a strong signal that we want to encourage yacht tourism because it's a very high value tourism. The ECCB in its report has said so, because the yachties, they come and they buy services as well. They don't just sail into the harbor and drop anchor. They buy services on shore. So we want to be able to encourage that form of tourism. So we have to send a message that when there are crimes against yacht visitors, break-ins and so forth, theft of their dinghies and engines, and which is the most common form of crime against them, that we will take action quickly to discourage these kinds of activities, because they scare people away. Just imagine how much better we could be doing if people feel that when they come here, no matter which bay you're going, which harbor you go to, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that you would feel safe doing so. Then more and more people will come. The fact that the numbers are rising is not anything to be sort of complacent about and to say, well, okay, we are doing well. We are still not anywhere near where we were, 15 years ago in terms of yacht tourism in this country. So we have a long way still. We lost a lot of that market to Grenada and to St. Lucia, and we are now trying to rebuild. We should not be rebuilding. We should have been, standing on that and building, expanding it into the future. So we are not going to relent on this and to say, well, okay, we reach where we should be. We have a lot we could do. You have tourism now. You have the cruise ship tourism. A taxi driver tell me in town the other day, he said, man, we're losing a lot of money on a Friday. So what do you mean? He said the tours that we used to do, like shoot for Charlotte, for example, you can't. because it closed down. I mean, for how many years now they have that closed? You know, the Belmont Lookout that should have been fixed back in June and July in anticipation for the cruise ship visitors when they arrive, so that the taxi drivers can have places to take them and so forth. Then you have the Montreal Gardens, the road there. How many times we've been complaining and saying, and the owner has begged and beseeched and say, you know, fix the road so that the taxi drivers would feel that they can bring visitors there, trips there, without having to risk damaging their vehicle, which is what it is now. I have man tell me he ain't kicking nobody there because the road's so bad that it ain't worth it would not be worth his while. He will do more damage to his vehicle than the fare could compensate. So these are things that if you're serious, then you should develop them, you know, the various sites around them. What about the craft vendors? You know, craft vendors are valuable. They're very, very valuable component of our tourism. When people come here, they don't want to look on the bottom of everything they buy and see made somewhere else. They want to have authentic stuff that is made here. And the people who provide that more than anyone else are the craft vendors, because they make the things themselves. Most of the stuff that they make have 100% local components. You know, there's no real importation. Some of it, yes, but most of it they make here and so forth. It helps to develop our local industries. The government needs to, as a state, we need to provide an environment to encourage that. As you know, Board, I have put forward, and the New Democratic Party, 4 pillars for the development of our economy. We have agriculture, which we have said is essential. You cannot have a vibrant economy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines without agriculture prospering. This government has brought agriculture down to like 5.5% of GDP, gross domestic product of this country, which means it's a very small part of our economy. We need to rebuild that in a way that makes it more productive, raise the productivity, meaning that we are producing more efficiently and we can sell the stuff that we grow. But then we also have tourism as an extremely important component of it. And when the tourists come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we want to provide an environment that they feel comfortable and happy and so forth. When the cruise visitors come, they must be able to go and taste, experience, because they're not here for long, you know, a day and a half. They must be able to go around and see the various sites and taste a little bit of hospitality, so that they can think, well, maybe this is a place I will want to visit and to come as a stay-over visitor at some point in the near future. That is one of the advantages of cruise tourism, because you say, well, okay, when people come, they don't spend long, and sometimes they don't spend a lot of money. In fact, that's one of the problems we've had with tourism in this country, is that even when numbers go up, the earnings don't necessarily follow. For example, in 2019, you know, you had 200, I said, according to the ECCB, you had 242,000 visitors. And yeah, and you have $180 million in EC dollars spent. And then you have in 2023, you have more, 253,700 visitors, but the spending is $129.4 million. So it is, you know, it is less than in 2019 when you had fewer visitors. So that is part of the challenge. What we need to do is to have higher value tourism as well, not just numbers, but that you have the spending. And that's part of the challenge we have here, is that when the cruise tourism, for example, come, we have one of the lowest spending rate of the cruise visitors. That is the crew who's work on the boats, you know, because they measure them separately from the guests who are on the boat. But you want them to come and to be able to spend. My philosophy is always, you know, you want them to max out the credit card and spend as much as they can here, not just do it all on a boat or take it somewhere else, because that is how we benefit from it. And that is part of what the problem that we have in tourism here, that even when numbers increase, the earnings don't follow in the same way. What you would want is to have, especially when the cruise visitors come, instead of $55 and $60 spending per average per person, you know, in some other countries, $120, $160 per person. That is where you want to be headed. And then as a Minister of Tourism, as a government, if you are at the bottom, which we are, then you have to ask yourself, well, what do we do to get the, the spending of these visitors to increase? Because they're not going to just give you your money because they come to visit. You have to have stuff to sell, and you have service to provide. You have to have tours to do. You have to have things that they're interested in, because a lot of those people come, they have modest means as well. They're not wealthy people. They come and they want to have value for money. The taxi drivers will tell you that sometimes they're negotiating with them to go to the beach around here and so forth, as to people tell them how much they should be paying, and they come and trying to bargain you down, and the taxi driver has to say, well, listen, I can't do it for that, but here's what I would offer, and so forth, and try and get some business. But these are things that we need to do better. And the Minister of Tourism should have been in the Parliament last, in the budget address, explaining to the people how we're going to take advantage of the cruise tourism that's coming now, the uptick in the number of yachts that have arrived, and then of course the hopefully we can have an increase in the stayover visitors as well. Our tourism is still, a fraction of what it is in St. Lucia in terms of the earning, and in Antigua and so forth. And there's no reason why it should be. Absolutely no reason why it should be, because we have so much more to offer, and we just need to be more forward thinking and have a minister and a tourism authority and a Ministry of Tourism that work with urgency to develop this industry. And that is why I have outlined in our program for the economic development of the country that we have tourism as one of the pillars of our economy. We have, the craft and so forth vendors will get a lot of assistance from us because we understand the economic importance of it. Sometimes they're just basically left on their own by the side of the road trying to fend for themselves to make a dollar, when in fact they're a very important part of cruise tourism. You ask yourself, but if you go someplace, you want to come back with something unique from that place to say, well, listen, I've been there. You don't want something you could buy in any shop anywhere in any of the islands. You want something that is authentically from that place. And who does that? Is the craft vendors. So we have to give them a lot more encouragement and support to ensure that they're able to put their stuff out there. First of all, they can make them and put them out there, and that they get the support and approval from the Ministry of Tourism, not just coming and taking money out of their pockets all the time by charging all kinds of fees for all kinds of things that you have to do to support the Ministry of Tourism. The Ministry of Tourism has to be supporting the people who are working in the industries. So those are some of the things that we need to be able to do to get our tourism going. And I really was very, very disappointed. As you know, I shadowed tourism for the position, and it's a subject that I have learned a hell of a lot about over the number of years that I've been doing it. And the minister now, in my view, is woefully inadequate, not up to the task in terms of inspiring people as to how we should go into it. He doesn't seem to understand what is required, and certainly doesn't give it the urgency and the importance that is required. It's still the largest foreign exchange earner that we have. It's a very, very important industry because the growth potential is there. It's not like we are a mature tourism economy. We are at the growing stage, and that should be a rapid growth because we have what it takes to get people to want to come to this country. It's a beautiful country, wonderful people, and everything. But we got to get all the elements correct. And the Minister of Tourism missed his big opportunity. I hear you're going to have some talk somewhere where you're going to present something about tourism, where you should have come in the Parliament and talk about that, and let us then have a chance to interrogate it, to question it, to push, and to hopefully get something better out of what is required. But that has been terrible miss on the part of this government. That's why I've said, I described the budget they presented as a budget of missed opportunities. They have not provided for jobs, permanent jobs, for rising wages and so forth. They have just simply missed the boat. And it's time that you have people in place who are bringing fresh eyes to this thing, who are eager and keen to develop, to work with the stakeholders, not to put them down and to make them feel inferior to government and so forth. Because you're a minister of tourism, don't mean you know everything about tourism. In fact, you know very little compared to the people who are working in the industry for so many years. So humble yourself, go and talk to them and say, listen, I'm here to serve you to try and get this thing working, build our tourism up so that we could create jobs, better paying jobs for our people, and tax revenue so the government can function more effectively. That is not being done. We have a lot to do to get that going. And the budget would have been a good place to start, but they failed.
As Dr. Friday, as you said, it seemed like now they realize their mistake, or they want to be able to present in their own little area so they can avoid the scrutiny and the questions in terms of what their plans are. I think that they missed that opportunity, and now they're scrambling to put things together in a different way. So I want to before you go into anything else, look back at the last week and the presentations by the New Democratic Party, yourself and your colleagues on different platforms. And my feedback on the ground is a lot of people, delighted that they got to hear these presentations. A lot of persons who are impressed, and all good for the New Democratic Party. What's your thought on that and going
well,
forward?
but I'm so we had a roundtable last week, and I have said it that my colleagues, I am so proud of the way in which they prepare. They are ready to articulate policies that are forward looking. They're doable. They're not pie in the sky stuff. There are things that we can do to make life better, whether it's in education, in healthcare, in agriculture, in tourism. All of these things, we have thought them through and are ready to present, and they did that, as you can see, in the presentations that were done during the course of last week. Certainly, of course, for Senator Chevron John and I, we had an opportunity to do the presentation in the Parliament before the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister essentially curtailed further discussion of the budget. And Siobhan did a magnificent job as usual. I was telling her the other day when we were at the round table, she's such a natural at it because she's genuine. She really believes in what she's doing, and she genuinely want to help people, and she represent their concerns in a way that is authentic. There's no faking that. And so I'm very, very proud of the way in which she presented, and of course, for my colleagues during the course of the week. I mean, you listen to those presentations, the depth and the understanding and the way people talk off the top of their head. I heard Nature talking about in detail about the stuff in his constituency that need to be dealt with, and an historical overview of it and the current situation and various things that need to be done. This is somebody who's in tune, who's in touch with his constituency. Similarly, you hear it from the Bruce in his presentation, wonderful presentation in agriculture. Major and Cummings, very, very proud of the way in which these my colleagues have presented, and the fact that other persons in the community felt that they learned a lot from the presentations, that they were happy to have them done in that manner. If we had not been able to do it in the Parliament, then it tells me that we are on the right track in that regard. The government says that their budget shows that the country is in the right direction. But I mean, how can you say that when even the Prime Minister doesn't back it up by defending the budget? What are people supposed to think? You have a ministry, you have ministers of health, education, major ministries, tourism, fail to present. Ministers who are spending in total over $640 million among them, and they don't feel that they have an obligation to come to the Parliament to say to the people, these are the items that I'm going to spend it on. These are the things that I'm going to do. This is what is presented in the budget. And they didn't feel that they had an obligation to do that and to find all kinds of excuses. They really are, they are a bunch of, people who have lost their way, if they ever had one, and they certainly cannot guide us into the future because, as you can see, the budget is supposed to be their blueprint for this year and setting out things that will be implemented over the course of several years. And they couldn't even do that. They couldn't even get that right. How can we trust them to actually implement anything that is in there? And of course, in my presentation, I also outline a number of the fallacies and the lies and the misrepresentations and the hypocrisy that is engaged in this budget presentation, where they seem to think that the numbers, you could just simply add numbers here and there to make it balanced without being without caring as to whether those things will ever be implemented because they don't have the money to do it. But anyway, that you can, for those persons who didn't get a chance to listen to it, I mean, they're all there. We've outlined them, and you can always find these things on social media. But we will continue, nevertheless, to harp on them because they are necessary. It is necessary for us to point out to the people how this government is failing them. And when your things are not happening right in your country, when you have, economic conditions are getting harder for people, you have to be able to point someplace to say, well, that is where the problem lies. Because if you can't identify the source of the problem, they wouldn't know how to fix it. And the problem currently now lies with the government. They quite clearly demonstrated that in the disgraceful way in which they performed in the parliament, that you have people sitting in the parliament there and would not rise to defend their budget or to present on their ministries, even the prime minister himself. And instead, they seem to be more interested in what's going on in other countries than in dealing with the concerns of our people here. This is why, but my colleagues and I, that we will continue to represent. We will continue to do what we believe is in the best interest of the people. And most of all, we will go out and meet the people. We go and talk to our people and say, let us join in together, get rid of the government, and start planning for a better future in this country. And we will work together to get a better future with better paying jobs, more economic opportunities for our local business people, whether it's in in agriculture, in fisheries, in construction industry, in new industries. Government is there. We will be there in partnership with the people, not competing against them, not making them feel, talking down to them in some patronizing tone like the minister did in his budget address, but as essential part of the development of this country. It has to be our local private sector and the foreign direct investment that we can attract from abroad. We can't borrow and beg for everything. Of course, if people will give us stuff, friendly countries will help us out, as they've done, then of course we would happily accept that. Borrowing, however, comes with its risks because you have to pay back. And if you don't invest what you borrow properly, then you will not get the return, to be able to pay those debts. And then we have problems going forward when we can't generate enough to pay for our social programs, to fix our roads, which is where we are now in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Dr. Friday, I know the NDP spoke about agriculture being one of the pillars. I listened to the Minister of Agriculture. I listened to the presentation from the Minister of Finance. I don't know if I missed it, but I didn't have any plan that you could see that is feasible, that you could say, well, in the next 6 months or in the next couple of months or by the end of the year, St. Vincent would we be on a particular part of development or on a particular agriculture step. And I think Major was making that in his presentation.
Yeah.
After all these years, we still, I heard you mention it too. Every time the Minister of Agriculture speak, he's either we're going to have Star Apple, or we're going to have something else, or we're going to have goat.
It's a product of the month kind of campaign, but every so often you come to something new, whether it's Maki and whatever, wrong provision here, and but the point is that if you're going to have a thriving agricultural sector, again, you got to put the elements in place. First thing you have to do is you have to believe that agriculture is part of our future. You can't just do it just for show, and then you got to bring the farmers and the investors on board together for us to plan how we go forward. What can we do to earn a living in agriculture? It's not going to be any single commodity as we did in the past, whether it's banana or sugar or whatever else. It's going to be, you have to be more flexible, we have to be more creative, we have to use new techniques, we have to use irrigation. You heard my colleague Daniel Cummings speak about that last Thursday evening. We have to have more efficient techniques of growing and doing vegetables and various other commodities. This is what the Ministry of Agriculture should be every day trying to plot and say, okay, how do we get the farmers into these areas? Where is the market for it? How do we help them to market those commodities? How do we help them to do so in a way that is competitive? Because it's not just a question of growing things, everybody can grow something. The question is, if you're growing it for yourself, then that's one thing. But if you want to sell it, you have to grow it at a particular quality and price so that people will buy it. That's what makes it a commodity, not just a fruit. And so we have to be able to bring those techniques into the agricultural sector as well, not just in manufacturing or in various other areas. And we don't get that kind of leadership from the government. The minister is talking, they have these implements that they're buying, they're bringing in so many stuff, they're going to be giving people fertilizer, they're giving them tools, they're going to do that. The question is, what are they growing with it? How is it being integrated in the other development projects that we have going on in the country? What role will the Ministry of Agriculture be playing in getting these farmers up and so on? Not just to point out what the obstacles are, as tends to be the case, what the obstacles are, but helping to overcome those obstacles, because that is what your role and function is. And that is something that we are going to be insisting upon in the Ministry of Agriculture when we form government. And I've said this, and you know very well, Bud, that we will separate out the Ministry of Agriculture from the Ministry of Fisheries. They're two different activities, but they also each in their own right is an industry in itself, major industry in itself. And the Ministry of Fisheries, the Fisheries has not been really given the kind of prominence it requires in order to develop our fishing industry and to focusing on the use of our natural resources, but in a way that is sustainable. So you have to have use and conservation, both balancing. That is something we will do, and the Ministry of Agriculture will focus on agriculture and forestry and get the farmers the assistance that they need to stop people from thieving their animals, from thieving their fruits and vegetables and so forth, and getting them the credit that they need and the fertilizer and the implements that they need, to helping them in market support so that they can sell what they grow, and to take some of the risk away from the farmers. You can't just say, you plant this thing now and you're getting $2 a pound or whatever, and then if the market drops to $1 a pound, it's only the farmers who take the loss, because the middleman, the traffickers and so forth, and the people working in the Ministry of Agriculture, they don't take any of the loss. It's only the farmer who takes the loss, and they have to decide whether it's worthwhile to reap what they sow. So we're saying that it can't be that way, because then they will feel that the risk is too great, and then they won't invest, and then our agriculture continues to decline. I think now it's 5.5% of the gross domestic product of the country, and that is fisheries. Export fisheries is minuscule compared to its potential, and certainly compared to our neighbor in Grenada. There's a hell of a lot more for us to do, but there is no urgency, there is no plan, there is no real zeal on the part of this government. You were saying earlier about that when people functioning in the various ministries, everybody looking over their shoulder and saying, well, I know this is the right thing to do, but is it politically sanctioned? Is it something that I will get chewed out for even if I do the right thing? Because they're afraid, because of the way in which this present government manages and micromanages many of the things that happen in the various ministries. We have to free up the public servants for them to do what they're professionally trained to do, what they're capable of doing, and give them the freedom to implement and to do things, and make with responsibility Also, with opportunity comes the responsibility of making sure that they deliver on these programs that are set out in the budgets and the monies that are set aside and so forth. It's them I'm going to go to and say, you asked for this, now we provide it to you. Now show me how you use it. Now show me who benefit from it. Show me how you go out and help the farmers and so forth. And every year you have to be accountable. You can't just sit back and say, well, the farmers is their problem, is the government problem, is somebody else's problem, but not yours. Your job is to make them succeed. And we'll set an environment that says, you have the freedom to go and do that. Now show me what you can do.
And I remember the other day, before I move over, that when we had the input of all the manure, and I remember the minister clearly saying that in a few months or whatever, we'll reap the benefit, and St. Vincent will be so green and have so much different crops to produce. But we heard that already when they always have some announcement, whether it's going to be the mother of all road repairs or I'm trying to remember the terminology he used, but he did say with the input, I'm trying to remember the manure, that I think is out of Venezuela somewhere.
Oh, you mean the urea that they got some time ago?
Right, and he did say that we'll see an agriculture development and improvement like none other in history.
As usual, it's all propaganda, big talk and little action. They're always promising more than they deliver. People are fed up with that kind of nonsense. Come and see what I'm doing on my farm. Come and see what I'm doing in my animals. Come and hear my story when I tell you that I had certain animals, and when I come back the next day, all gone. Rather than just saying, oh, go tell the police, and the police don't show up. Come and let's show me how I can make. I have these 2 acres of land here. I used to grow banana. Now it's just elephant grass. Show me how I can be productive. What can I grow that I can sell and make a living to now, maintain myself and my family. That is what you should be out there doing, and more of that will be done under an NPA government, because as I said, they will have the freedom to do their job, but it comes with that the responsibility of ensuring that you deliver on the promises of the government, that you deliver on your duties and your obligations in your particular position in government, whether it's in Ministry of Agriculture or teaching or whatever other field that you're in. We got to get people producing at a very high level and doing it in a professional way. And I think it's possible, and it's desirable. It's what people want to do. But now they just feel that they don't have that freedom to act, because it's always somebody looking over their shoulder with some political club to beat them over the head if they don't do what is not just right technically, but what is politically sanctioned or desirable for the government to look good.
Definitely. Dr. Friday, we into the break. I don't know if you want to highlight anything else before we take the break, and because when we come back, I know you want to continue and also take some calls.
But the main thing that I want us to consider here is that we have said that in the New Democratic Party, tourism is one of the pillars of the economy. We have outlined so that people can understand more clearly where our focus is. We have articulated the view of 4 pillars of the economy, agriculture being one, tourism being one, and the blue economy, which includes fishing, the yachting sector, and you've heard me talk a lot about the whole shipbuilding, ship repair. There's a lot of opportunities there. And of course, all the other things that we don't normally think of in economic terms. You heard me talk about some of it just now, the handicraft industry, the tourism, sports, the entertainment, tourism, and so forth. But also the artists, giving them the encouragement and the support so that they can succeed, not just here in our 110,000 population, but in the region and farther afield. We've seen the successes of some of our artists. We know that we can produce world-class entertainment. So it is important that we provide a supportive environment to nurture that, to protect it, and to give the assistance that is necessary for them to take off. These are things that we will focus on as part of an essential part of the economy of this country. But for now, we want to talk about the tourism sector because, of course, we are in the tourist season. We have seen the missed opportunities that could have been taken care of. There's a large demand now for people coming back from COVID, for cruise tourism, for yachting tourism, for stayover visitors. We have to take advantage of that because it will not always be there. You know, when people have now done their trips that they had put off for the last 3 or 4 years, they will want to be able to get going again and then go back to their normal routine. We have to take advantage of that, and we're not doing so in our tourism. You can't do it on promises. You have to deliver, and then you have to bring all the stakeholders, not just the major projects. Of course, you have Sandals coming, you have other major projects and so forth, and those are welcome, but we have to get the ordinary people involved, the small operators here, the people who have fixed up their house to rent out and so Airbnb, and the taxi drivers and the bus, the coach operators, the people who do a little vending on the side here and so forth, the people who do the crafts, and all of these things. These are important component of our tourism environment, and we have to bring them in, not as, don't treat them as nuisance, don't treat them as unimportant. That is the essential part of our tourism, because when people come, you know, they're flying here on a plane that we don't own. They stay in hotels usually that we don't own. When I say we, I mean the people in the country. So how do we get a piece of the action? It can't just be only because, you know, we are working at a hotel here and there. You know, those are important jobs, but we also want to have spin-offs from that, where you have the spending outside of these larger establishments, where the ordinary man, the taxi drivers, the craft vendors, the restaurants, the various places that can benefit from having increased numbers come. But it ain't gonna happen on its own. We have to have a plan to promote it. We have to value that as something that is important in our tourism environment, and put the measures in place to get it to happen.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Dr. Friday, and to those following on the stream. We're going to take a break. We should be back in about 9 or so minutes. So really join at that time. So we're going to take the break and then we'll come back.
General Hardware still has the best prices on steel, lumber, and plywood. So go on, compare prices. And if by chance you find a better price,